right, Masters of the Universe Classics fans, we're back with another director's commentary, and this is a big one because it's not only a two-pack, but it's two of the most important characters in the line, Prince Adam and Orko. This is Scott ToyGuru Neitlich. I was the brand manager at Mattel for 95% of the Masters of the Universe Classics line, all the way through, well, I left in 2014, but you always work a year ahead, so I worked on 2015 and a good chunk of 2016. But this takes us back to 2010, right, is where we are? And we're at San Diego Comic-Con 2010. So, yeah, why do Prince Adam and Orko at San Diego Comic-Con? Well, let's talk about it. So, first off, God, there's like so much to talk about with Prince Adam and Orko. So, for starters, it's important to note that this was one of the only times we kind of did a separate version of the figure at San Diego Comic-Con compared to the version at Mattel Collector after the show. So that was this more clear color change Orko that actually, when you dipped him in water or used a hairdryer, he would change change color, excuse me. And then the regular version of Orko with straight, standard sort of classic paint was available on Mattel Collector after the show. And, well, I'll get into this, in a moment, but it was basically to make Orko special for the show, and why we wanted to make him special for the show, I'll get into. But essentially, this was going to be a way to get characters out that were highly recognizable. We knew Orko was going to need sort of a special packaging because he was a smaller figure. And instead of sort of making him like a $10 figure, we made him a $30 figure by including Prince Adam. And as I said, the version at Comic-Con had this cool color change feature. So whether you're leaving him out in the sun, or freezing him in a freezer, or dipping him into water, be it ice water or hot water, or you could even use a hairdryer, that would cause him to basically go all clear momentarily. You can kind of see here he's going, as the process continues, the paint would fade away. And it was like, magic, right? Because Orko's a magic character. So this was, kind of the idea was he was doing one of his magic spells. And this way the Orko from San Diego Comic-Con was a little special for those who went out to the show. Here he is kind of fully changed and all clear, except for his face and the O on his chest was the only thing that didn't change. So, it was fun. It was, toyetic, if you will. It was to make him a little bit, more like a fun toy than just your standard San Diego Comic-Con item. And as far as why we did this, well, there's a couple reasons. Doing Prince Adam and Orko at Comic-Con helped to publicize the brand because they were known characters. The past year we'd done Hero, and before that King Grayskull, and that was definitely for the hardcore fans, especially Hero. This year we wanted to sort of go the opposite with a figure that was going to be recognizable and would hopefully bring in more fans, new fans to the line. And then with the question of why do a separate version for Comic-Con, well, the idea of rewarding those who go to Comic-Con is one thing, but I think a lot of people tended to forget that before Mattel Collector, the only way to get Mattel San Diego Comic-Con items like this She-Ra figure from a few years prior was to go to the show. There was no Mattel Collector. There was no post-show sale online. So if you wanted a San Diego Comic-Con, boy, I can't talk today, item like She-Ra or, like Keldor here, you had to go to the show. And doing a special version of Orko, which we also kind of did that with Hero by putting Comic-Con on his chest under the armor, and this wasn't limited to MOTU items, like all of the Mattel items, like this DC Batman figure. I think this was the same year as She-Ra, might have been the same year as Keldor. I can't always remember. This was before I actually worked at Mattel. I waited in line to get She-Ra and Keldor. I was a customer. Anyway, the point being is you could only get these toys at Comic-Con, and we wanted to continue that concept and, let fans have something as a reward for going out to the show. And that was the idea of why making Orko a little different for the show, using the color change feature, and then having the regular version on Mattel Collector. It was, no different than this Batman figure, or, again, She-Ra or Keldor, who were only at the show, and that was it. So, you kind of had to sort of think, about the history there. So, To fully talk about Orko, we need to talk a little bit about his history as a character. So he was created by Filmation. He was not a Mattel creation. He was designed basically to enhance the Filmation TV show and literally bring comic relief to episodes. I mean, that was his point. That was his purpose, because it was a show aimed at kids, and you wanted to keep them laughing, during the times when He-Man wasn't, battling it out with Skeletor. And so he was the comic relief character. When it came time to writing his bio, however, this was one of those things that we set in the very beginning, was the idea that we wanted to make him more than just your comic relief character. We wanted to make him a more important character to the lore. And for that, hit on the idea that Orko maybe was way more powerful than you realized. It's just that his magic didn't work on Eternia, which was kind of established in Filmation. And a lot of the reason for this change actually came from a She-Ra episode that Orko was in. I was a huge fan of the She-Ra show. And even though we didn't have Filmation rights, we still kind of had allusions to episodes. And one of the episodes that Orko is in, where he came to Etheria, is he's captured by Hordak, and Hordak kind of tries to torture Orko / read his mind and figure out what's going on, and he can't do it. He can't break Orko. Orko is more powerful than Hordak's devices and Hordak's powers. And this inspired the idea that, wow, what if, Orko really is like one of the most powerful characters out there, and the comic relief is just sort of his cover. And that sort of spawned the idea of him kind of being a secret agent, if you will. Like an undercover agent of Tralla who's assigned to Eternia to watch over Prince Adam and He-Man as he matures and, grows into his powers and his destiny. So, yeah, I mean, that idea basically fell into place pretty quickly, and it was there from the beginning of Classics, but I think it only got revealed through Orko's bio. And, yeah, the idea that he was like an undercover spy was cool. I mean, this made him much more than just comic relief. Some of the fans kind of pushed off on this, but, a lot of us liked it. Now, Orko was in the vintage line as well, but, he wasn't quite in scale. He was a little bigger than he was on the show. A lot of this was for, play value, since he had, like, the ripcord and the magic trick that also sort of enhanced his value as a toy, kind of like the cloth Jawa, giving him more value for your buck, since he was, smaller than a regular figure, and you wanted parents or, kids buying the toy in the 80s to feel like they got their dollar's worth. And in the 2000X series, also he was sculpted, again, a little bigger, and he came with a giant energy ball accessory that the Horseman did, which was awesome, but again, it was put there for price value, since he was, a shorter, smaller character, and they had to have the same price value as a regular figure. Now, Prince Adam, on the other hand, who we all know has the ability to shoot flames out of his wrists at any given time, right? For Filmation, he was, I guess for cost reasons, done with the same model as He-Man. So when the figure came out, it was basically just He-Man in a cloth red vest with a belt and, a white shirt on. It was, much like the show, used the same animation form, if you will, model. The Mattel toy used the exact same He-Man mold, including the face. It was just He-Man with a cloth shirt on. The Prince Adam, though, I personally loved the most was the 2000X version, because they made him more of a teenager with a much smaller body, so that when he transformed into He-Man, there really was a transformation. It wasn't just like, wait a minute, you look exactly like He-Man. You always disappear when He-Man comes around. So this was one of my favorite parts of 2000X, and I really loved that they did the action figure of him, again, as a smaller body than He-Man. We wanted to, and we had plans to get to this type of Prince Adam in the line, but that was going to be down the line. The idea was to first do the one based on the classic toy, but we definitely, at least I know I personally really wanted to get to this figure, and we were actually going to get a twofer by doing him and Dare, using the same new sort of Team Buck body, but we didn't get to that. So, so basically, you see, so Classics He-Man and Classics Prince Adam were much like the vintage toy, done with the same body, just with, more parts, in this case, the add-on vest. And we gave him a different head, an alternate head that had like a smirking face. Again, so it wasn't just the straight-up repaint of He-Man with the same face that the vintage figure had. At least with the smirk, it gave an original head to Prince Adam. We included the regular head too, so that way you could do a direct version of the vintage figure. But I like that we also, we were able to give him kind of that smirking head, and basically, it was like Prince Adam. It's made him. There's so much in heads. You get so much of the character in the face and in the heads, and when you do a new head, you really get a new figure. I should note that Prince Adam was supposed to have a flap on the back like Adora for his power sword, and the reason it got cut was an accident. It got lost when the Four Horsemen sent over the sculpting model. It was such a small piece. It literally got lost in the box, and we didn't notice until the figure went into production that he was supposed to have that flap. And it was just an honest mistake that engineering made. I never noticed it when I wasn't looking at the Horseman images all the time. So that's why he didn't have the flap, and that did drive me crazy because it should have had the flap, but it was unfortunate that it was like such a small piece that it just kind of got lost in the box and the bubble wrap when they were taking out the Paintmaster pieces that the Four Horsemen sent over, and that little piece unfortunately got lost. But it still wound up being a really cool Comic-Con exclusive. It made a lot of news, and it helped bring in more customers to the brand because Prince Adam and Orko are two of the rare characters that kind of mainstream fans know. A lot of people don't know even who Whiplash is, but they're going to know Orko because he was in like every episode. And now, the way we packaged Prince Adam, you will see on Orko's package, all the way down here, there's a little burst that says that Orko includes fully articulated Prince Adam. So this was a joke. This was basically a toy industry joke. So we knew we wanted to make Orko correctly in scale, which meant he was smaller. We weren't going to make him bigger like in the vintage line in 2000X. So he was either going to have to get released in a smaller package or a bigger package. In this case, we went bigger, and the included Prince Adam figure got tucked away all the way at the bottom, so you almost couldn't see him in package. And this wasn't because he was sleeping in the stables, or something like that. That's what a lot of fans would say. We did this literally because, I thought it was funny. It was basically inspired by things like this, so like Salacious Crumb from the Star Wars line tends to be a figure that kind of gets the raw end of the deal as far as getting released from Hasbro and Kenner as an action figure, because for the most part, Salacious Crumb is a pack-in figure. So, I'm just using him as an example. There's others throughout the toy industry, but he's a good example to illustrate how you're paying for Amamaman. I'm probably butchering his name, but every time that Salacious Crumb, for the most part, got released, it was like C-3PO, and also included is Salacious Crumb. Anamanaman and Salacious Crumb. Ula and Salacious Crumb. The idea that Salacious Crumb never really was going to get his own main carded release as a, full action figure because he's a much, much smaller character. And yes, I'm also a big Star Wars collector myself, and I'm well aware that there was a single card release at Comic-Con one year as part of a giant pack, but it had a very small run, and it was not a main retail release. For the most part, Salacious Crumb was always a pack-in. So that was the idea, was since Orko would have been a pack-in figure, the idea was, well, what if we just flip that and we make Orko the main figure and have this regular-sized Prince Adam as the pack-in, as if it was like, Salacious Crumb, and also includes Ula, or also includes C-3PO. It was a joke. We thought it would be funny. I still think it's funny. All right, last thing to talk about Orko was there was also this variant in the production process that was completely clear. This was sort of the prototype of the color change one, and one of the benefits of being the brand manager is you sometimes get access to these really cool things, and this one's still on my shelf today. I absolutely love it. I just wanted to share it because it's cool. It's basically like Invisible Orko, and hey, benefit of blood, sweat, and tears going into making the line. Orko and Prince Adam, San Diego Comic-Con, another 2 characters under our belts and many more to come.